And welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, I believe, fresh off the Metallica concert last night. Joseph, good morning. How are you? What's going on? First mute of the day, immediately out of the gate, and Ian is fired up. He's ready to go.
Yes. Oh, it's going to be a great
Enter
day,
Sandman.
guys. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I have so little voice left. My God. They also played 5 of the 10 songs I said yesterday, which is insane.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, it's great.
Okay.
It's I couldn't believe I can't. The fact that they played Leper Messiah is truly incredible.
I just couldn't tell if you were hoping for more or if you were satisfied with that.
Yeah, I mean that's for a band with their catalog, yeah. Especially when a lot of what you asked for are deep cuts. I mean, including of course number 1, Harvest of Sorrow. It was a great concert.
Did you get a little physical out there? Any mosh pits that went down at Nissan Stadium?
As I was pointing out to Brennan, I'm like, at certain points, Seek and Destroy and certain songs, I'm like, I pointed out to like the middle thing. It's like a circular stage, the middle part is called the Snake Pit,
yeah.
Right? And I'm like, Brennan, this is old people. I'm sorry, but like when all of these people 30 years ago, they're smashing into each other. So I actually did blast him a few times, and then one time he hit me back, and I like vaulted on the other side of the aisle. And people were looking at me like, "What the hell's wrong with this dude?"
Well, at least you tried.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's fine. That's what it's supposed to be,
At least you gave it a shot there. Ian Safar, yeah. How we doing? What's going on?
Doing good, thanks. Glad to see Joe made it alive.
Yeah.
This survived the old school metal.
So was it were you so happy last night, Joe, that you said, you know what? Screw this party we're going to Saturday. I'm going back to Metallica.
I mean, I'll tell you what, it would be
so they sounded pretty good overall?
Oh, they sounded really good.
All right, good.
It was great show.
It's good.
Yeah. It was a very good show. Chase McCabe also there. Chase McCabe hung out with us before the show while we sat at the Omni bar waiting for Brennan to finish his citations for his paper he was turning in.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, hope you got those done.
He got them done.
Hopefully you got those done. We got a lot to get to on the program today. Stilly will be with us at 7 o'clock. We'll see if Stilly went to Metallica last night, which is a wonderful mental image that I think could be awesome if he did. Terron Davenport will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Some Titans speaking yesterday, including Brian Callahan. Got a lot to get into on that front coming up this hour as well. But, Joe, I want to start. Tyler Lockett speaking yesterday with the media, and obviously Tyler Lockett, a very accomplished player coming from Seattle. He is now 32 years old, and he is entering into a new situation for the first time. A lot of things that Tyler Lockett got into yesterday just in terms of his role on the team, his viewpoint of where the Titans are as an organization, kind of his path to get here, all those different things. Apparently he was a Titans fan growing up, was here for the Baltimore playoff game back in 2008, which I guess would have been 2009 for the actual playoff game, 2008 season, which sure. I was there for that one too. That was a tough one. That was a tough one to watch. I think about Algie Crumpler fumbling the ball quite often. So that was a tough one. But yep. Tyler Lockett asked yesterday about his career, his stage of his career, where he's at right now heading into the Titans, and what he thinks he still brings to the table. Here's what Tyler Lockett had to say.
About being your best self, just at this point in your career on the field, what do you think your best self looks like?
I mean, best self just in every area. I mean, obviously, I want to get better at blocking. I want to get better in how I run routes, want to get better in how I catch the ball. Like, there's a lot of things that you can continue to learn and grow from just because you've played in the league for so long. Once you stop learning, it might as well be all said and done and just be over, right? Like, you don't want to be that person where coaches are like, I can't talk to him because he knows everything because he's been playing for so long. But that's not the case. And so for me, you know, every day I can't look ahead. I gotta be able to focus on today. If we're getting ready for a game on Sunday and today's Thursday, I still got Thursday to worry about before I can get to Friday and get to Saturday. And sometimes when you look ahead, you miss those days of being your best self because you're trying to get to where you hope to be for the game rather than just saying, man, when the game comes, I'm gonna be my best self that day. But other than that, I'm focused on being my best self on Thursday.
So I don't know how long Tyler Lockett talked yesterday, Joe. It was probably 15 minutes, somewhere around there. I thought he was excellent. Like, if you're a Titans fan and you missed that, I would go back and watch it. Like, I thought he was really, really good in his media setting yesterday. And look, ultimately, you know, what really matters is what he brings to the table on the field, and you know, how quickly can he be a factor out there for Cam Ward at this stage in his career. What does he have left in the tank? But I walked away basically thinking this yesterday, Joe. I was like, all right, you know, I like Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley clearly is their number one wide receiver. He's going to be their top threat in terms of playmaking ability. I don't know that Calvin Ridley like screams veteran leader in the room to me. Tyler Lockett does. Like that was one thing I walked away from yesterday. I was like, all right, the Titans have got their leader in that receiver room, and that was good to see.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would say, and like you said, you know, production is what matters most, but no question, that's just not really Ridley's bag, you know. And I mean, Ridley at some point during camp, we're probably gonna be talking about, well, when are they going to get on the same page, you know, and all that stuff. But yeah, I think the room really needed someone like that. You know, I don't know that NWI really was that, or Hopkins. I mean, Hopkins was, but even, you know, this guy is like obviously, you know, next level in that way. So I think as a voice in the room, I think he'll be really important because he'll still play enough and be important enough that people are going to listen to him. Yeah.
And then, you know, the question becomes, how at this stage of his career, what does that production look like? I mean, I said it when they signed him. You know, you're paying him hardly nothing. 49 catches, 600 yards last year, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I'd probably like to see the touchdown total go up, but other than that, like, I would probably sign up for Tyler Lockett, 49 catches, 600 yards at this stage of his career. I'd probably sign up for that right now and be happy with it if I'm the Titans.
Yes, you would sign up for that. And of course, you're hoping that you've got decent chunks of production out of, well, I was going to say both. I guess you could say all 3 rookies, but, you know, a receiver, both of the rookies. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I mean, one of them at least, you know, needs to produce at a pretty decent rate. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, to me, it's like Lockett, Ridley, and I would guess a Manor. That's it. Did I do it right?
I think so.
You know, as right now, like, would probably be like the starting lineup I'd pencil in, you know. But we'll see with Lockett. You know, I also don't think it's a bad thing if at some point he gets passed over. I mean, if both of these rookies are good, you know, maybe that takes away some of his production, some of his opportunities. That's fine, but it's hard for me to look at this room and think he's not going to be a pretty significant factor.
Trevor says, I really like Tyler Lockett after hearing him speak. Hope he doesn't come in here and turn into Tyler Boyd. LOL. Got another texter, Craig and JC says, Lockett interview was great. Titans need more of that attitude in the locker room. We appreciate our listeners in Johnson City. So thank you for listening in, Craig. Yeah, I mean, I thought, again, I heard it speak. Again, it's probably 15 minutes long. And then, Titans Twitter took to commenting on it after, and basically it was all the same thing. It was like, wow, Tyler Lockett was awesome. That was good stuff. Again, we'll see what he does on the field. But in a room that I thought was, especially, after the departure of Hopkins last year, and certainly now that your boy NWI is gone on to greener pastures, in desperate need of some like veteran leadership in there, I felt a lot better about it. I didn't know what Tyler Lockett brought to the table from that standpoint. I've watched him in Seattle, but I don't pay attention to the inner workings of the Seattle Seahawks all that much because we're focused on what goes on around here. So it did not take me long into that press conference yesterday of watching him, Joe, to realize, okay, yeah, Titans are going to be fine on that front with Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard of a guy going to an all around the entire room shaking hands. So that takes up a little bit of time. Did he and Kaharsi come up with a secret handshake?
I don't know. Good question.
Like Kaharsi, like try to fist bump him instead or something. Try to be cool.
Anybody ever told you sound like Edith?
Apparently, Tyler Lockett's a huge All in the Family. Yeah. Wait, what the heck was the name of that show?
What is the name of that
It
show?
is All in the Family, right?
It is All in the Family. Yes.
Good Lord, it's gonna be that kind of day. Also, is the text line working for you?
It is.
Okay, good. Great.
We'll see if we can get you figured out on that. When was the last episode of All in the Family?
I mean, my
70
guess
something?
would be.
Yeah, it looks like in the 70s here.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I
it
would have
says
guessed
70s.
it might have ended.
I'll have to see.
I would have guessed it might have ended in like 81 or something like that. But
Okay.
The Jeffersons was a spinoff, so that went into the 80s. So both great shows.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Rexrode survived the Metallica concert, and he is here today on the program, alive and well. Take your thoughts on that. Your thoughts on Tyler Lockett, his introductory press conference with the Titans yesterday. Plus, something that Brian Callahan said that caught my eye yesterday, Joe, that I'm not sure that I believe and or is a smart strategy. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. People very excited that Rexrode survived Metallica. Good to know. Good to know you're loved on the text line, Joe.
You know people don't want me dead yet.
So Brian Callahan addressed the media yesterday, and he talked about a lot of different things. And we're going to get in some other comments he had on another position group a little bit later this hour. But Joe, he talked about the quarterbacks yesterday, and this is not a new idea that he brought up. Mike Borgonzi talked about this in the immediate aftermath of the draft, and this was brought up again yesterday as it relates to the quarterbacks and how the reps are going to go here for the foreseeable future. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say about the quarterbacks yesterday.
Specifically with that position, how do you plan to divide or handle reps during OTAs, during minicamp, and is there going to be a first-team guy at quarterback?
Yeah, well, they'll have plenty of opportunities. How those reps get shaken out will sort of be determined by how they perform when given opportunities. That part of it's been thought out. We have a plan in place, and what that looks like is going to ultimately be sort of up to them, and how their performance goes when there's time to perform. So feel good about the process and the plan in place, and there's going to be plenty of reps for those guys to compete and get better and improve and be ready to play in September. So starting off early on here is baby steps to some degree.
So that was what Brian Callahan had to say on the reps and the quarterback position yesterday. Joe, I hear that, and I think to myself, who are we trying to kid here? Who are we trying to kid? We know Cam Ward is going to be the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. At least I think so. If he's not, we've got a big problem by the time week 1 rolls around, in my opinion. And if we all know that Cam Ward is going to be the quarterback when week 1 rolls around here, why are we trying to play this game as if like everybody's got a fair shot to be the quarterback? Guess what? You drafted Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. We all know the score here of what's going on with Cam Ward and what needs to happen here. And we all know that your last guy who you identified as your franchise quarterback did not work out, hence why you picked Cam Ward, number 1 overall. So I don't really know why we're going through like this dog and pony show here of, well, it's a competition and we're leaving reps open for everybody. And if you are doing that, and that's truly the way they proceed here, and they've just got reps based on performance, I guess, or they've got, these, an open competition, quote unquote, heading into training camp. Like, that bothers me because I want Cam Ward to get every possible rep he can get. Like, I need Cam Ward to be out there and getting every possible look, every possible rep, every possible touch point with his teammates to get that chemistry. So I don't buy into this. Well, we've got a plan for the reps at quarterback, and it's going to be open, and it's based on performance, and it's up to those guys how many reps they get. I don't know why we're going through this dog and pony show.
Yeah, hopefully the plan is just totally different from what he said. The thing is, though, this whole dog and pony show you're talking about, it's not. I don't think it's happening if Levis is not here, right? I mean, it's because that's what it's about. It's about him. And, of course, he got asked questions about Levis, too. Callahan did. And, said, you don't have to have any crazy conversations. And Will's, working on his focus. And, he's doing what he can do and all that stuff. Competition is good for young players. But, yeah, look, it's very feasible that Will Levis could come out here after a year in this offense, after an offseason of that work. I'm sure he worked hard. And he's sharper than Cam Ward. I mean, gosh, I would kind of hope so, right? From the start, yeah. I would kind of hope so. And so are you truly then going, oh, well, gosh, baby, Levis is QB1. No, of course you're not doing that. Of course you're not. So, I mean, I think the plan probably is to do what you said, give Cam Ward most of the reps.
So why are we going through this? Like, why are we saying that?
Here's another, this is where I need Kaharski. See, Paul, this is another reason why you just move Levis, because it's just like, then we're not, I don't even think those questions are coming. Then it's like, okay, you get you got a veteran backup and he's here to support he's here to support Cam Ward, in this case, you have the guy who just months ago was supposed to be he was the franchise quarterback hopeful, and he's still here. So I to me, that's the only reason those answers are what they are. And this is one of those things where, obviously fans and media, we roll our eyes at a lot of stuff coaches say, but like the players in question are also rolling their eyes at what he said yesterday. I promise.
I get if you're a coach, from one standpoint, you don't want to just say, well, Cam Ward's our guy. He's going to be the starting quarterback, because I guess you're trying to operate in a world where he goes out there and quote unquote earns it. But
Sure.
I mean, who are we kidding? He was drafted number 1 overall. As Devin from Dover on the text line points out, you turned down a king's ransom from the Giants in order to draft him number 1 overall. He's clearly going to be, look, Brian Callahan's obviously not going to come out and say this in a press conference setting, but like what Cam Ward does is probably going to determine whether or not Brian Callahan's still here this time next year. We all know this. So I guess I understand, the coach in him trying to say, you know what, I don't want to just come hand a job to this kid. But we all know when you're drafted number 1 overall, and particularly given the rest of this quarterback room right now, looks like what the score is here. I don't know. Just he said that yesterday, and I was like, who are we kidding? Are we going to do this? Like, is he going to do this like 3 weeks into camp? Like, we can get to the second or third preseason game, and he's going to be like, well, it's still an open competition out there. We'll see if Cam Ward is the starting quarterback by the time the regular season rolls around. Enough. We know that Cam Ward is going to be the starting quarterback here.
Yeah. No, totally. Now, again, right now at this point, okay, say that stuff. And yes, we're not going to say anything where we just declare it and yeah, you got to earn it, all that stuff. But yeah, if you get into that stage and we're still talking about it, then it's just like, that's going to be, think of the meltdowns we'll have alone, that alone should be a deterrent. And the thing is, so then you get into, if you're going to say this, if this is going to be your public messaging, then you'll have people like Skylar. There's a totally fair question. Skylar says, so is there really a chance Borgonzi and Brinker have a plan to sit him and develop him? Can you do that with the number 1 pick? Could you do that with the number 1 pick? You could, but I absolutely don't think that's the plan here. Not for a second. I think he's taking the first snap in the first game.
Well, and frankly, could you do that with the number 1 pick? Of course. I think it would be a way easier sell to do that with a number 1 pick had you gone out and signed a veteran quarterback this offseason. A little bit better than Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle. Like, can you do that with Will Levis? I still say the answer is no. Like, I don't think that serves anybody well to do that with Will Levis this year. So, like, are you really going to trot Brandon Allen out to be your starting quarterback? I just have my doubts about that. And again, let's take him at face value here, Joe. Let's say that what Brian Callahan said yesterday in terms of we're going to divide up the reps and it's going to be performance based. Okay, let's take him at his word. Well, what if Levis does come out there and looks really good? So are you going to start giving him all these reps all of a sudden? Like, it just feels like a total waste of time to me.
Right. So if you're Levis, and again, I don't think Levis has illusions. The texture says typical Titan football, giving Levis and anyone else the notion he has a chance is ludicrous. Cam Ward needs to be told this team. But if you are Levis and you heard that yesterday, oh, okay. And then you go out and you're just flat out better than Cam Ward early, which again is totally feasible. I mean, you would think that all that time in the offense would be helpful. Also, he's talented and practice made them think he could be good last year. Let's remember that,
right.
Again, like we talked about yesterday. So then you do, and you were clearly better, and then you still don't get the reps. Oh, well, what the hell? Why the hell did you say that?
Yeah, why'd you say it? Because we all know that, right? Like I said it yesterday, and this is how I would operate. To me, if I'm the coach, I don't care what Will Levis does. He could go out there and look like Joe Montana. Great, man. We're going with Cam Ward as a starting quarterback. But I just don't know why you leave yourself open this. As Jabari points out on YouTube, says this is the same organization that couldn't say for sure that they weren't going to pick up Traylon Burks' 5th-year option. Like, that was another thing. Like, they, after the draft, the Brinker press conference earlier this week, and even Callahan yesterday was like, yeah, we're still working through that. It's like, guys, we know that you're not picking up Traylon Burks' 5th-year option. If you do pick it up, all of you need to be fired on the spot. We all know this.
Now, on that one, I will say, who asked the question? Can you tell me?
I don't remember.
I mean, like, I don't think that's a question that needs to be asked. Does it really need to be asked? And so whoever asked
maybe so. I mean, they didn't want to answer it.
Right, but it's like because I know, like, I don't expect them to say, "Are you kidding me? No, we're not picking up his 5th-year option."
You
I
can
don't
just say
expect them to,
no. Hey, we're not going to do that.
You could,
Which they
but
ultimately ended up saying not in a press conference setting yesterday. That they're not picking it up. Shocker.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of those. It's like no, duh. But some of this public messaging, you go back to last year and some of the stuff about Burks, and that was said. It's like, yeah, you do have to, like, sometimes the grain of salt needs to be a little bit too big here. Jared says I'm carrying water for Levis. I'm giving you a hypothetical where he could have good practice reps. I don't think that's like the craziest thing in the world.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Brian Callahan may not like our first hour today. We got some more things to get into on what Brian
Callahan a little more
had to say yesterday. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Jared Stillman will be with us coming up at 7 o'clock. He'll get his thoughts on all things Titans as well. A lot of reaction on the text line to the quarterback discussion we just had, and why Brian Callahan won't just say, Cam Moore's going to get a lot of reps. He's going to be our starting quarterback. Get more into that a little bit later in the program as well. But, Joe, there were some more comments from Brian Callahan that caught your eye yesterday as it relates to the offensive line.
Yeah, I guess this is sort of setting up the Stillbilly pretty well, because the way I'm about to react to this quote is probably very Stilly-ish, but let's just play it and then we can talk it over.
How optimistic are you, going back to the offensive line, Brian, how optimistic are you about the group that you should possibly have now, when last year it was a week-to-week thing where we'll see what we got this time?
Yeah, I think we're improved. I think anytime you add a caliber of player of Kevin Zeitler, and the way he's played as long as he's played at that level has been really impressive. And then you add Dan, who's started for 4 years as a left tackle, and now you got a second-year player in JC that I think has a ton of talent, and I think Pete's gotten better every year. You get Lloyd back when he's healthy. On paper, it looks like we're much improved, but again, it's we got to go do it. We'll see what it ultimately looks like, but I think we feel like we've improved the spot, and we should be in a better place than we were a year ago. But it's got to be obviously a lot better than it was a year ago.
So here's my Stilly-ish reaction. First of all, he talked about Zeitler several times. He's clearly excited about Zeitler, which I get. Zeitler's he's a nasty little interior offensive lineman. If he's still, stay healthy and all that, I mean, I like that pickup. But, when that question comes to him, you know what I want to hear? I want to hear, well, guys, we got a legit left tackle. We got a left tackle. We got a starting left tackle. And, at last year, if anybody watched him, you saw that guy can play. And so that's where we upgraded. And he sort of almost threw him in as and then, Dan is, they got Dan too. And I don't know. Again, am I overreacting? Probably. We're parsing these words. But my initial thing was gosh, he barely even mentioned him. And it was sort of threw him in there. You want to hear excitement about Dan Moore, who, they hiding from the media since they've signed him. So am I overreacting?
I'm actually kind of glad he didn't do that. I kind of want to see, if I'm a Titans fan right now, I want to see, look, man, I'm glad you are excited about what you brought in on paper. And on the surface, I agree with you. The offensive line should be better. But if I'm a Titans fan right now, based on all the sunshine pumping that went on around here last year, what I want to hear is, we're going to go out there and work, and hopefully we're a lot better. That's what I want to hear. I'm not going to sit here in May and talk about how much better I think we are on the offensive line and how much that I think we're so improved there. We're going to be a whole lot better. I want you to say, we're going to go out there and work, man. We're going to go out there and work, and we're going to try to prove it. That's me.
That's fair, and that's fine. But we do know how Brian Callahan is, right?
We do.
Brian Callahan, again, I don't think that he's BSing all the time when he praises guys. Now, again, like I just mentioned, Traylon Burks last year, go listen to some of that stuff, from camp. Considering that he usually is that way, then when he isn't about a player, then I have to be like, hey, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Again, I could be reading too much into it. But I mean, you're right. They do need to, overall, the messaging needs to be a little bit more. Yeah, we just need to show it, as opposed to this, and this are going to be awesome.
I did notice that, though. He was very quick in his answer to just say, Zeitler. I mean, it's Zeitler. You feel good about him. And then, we also signed Dan
other times. Yeah. He brought him up other times too, unprompted. So yeah, big Zeitler guy, and also we have a left tackle.
We did make another signing.
And he's a starting left tackle now, so we'll see. Yeah, I don't know, maybe, maybe that's what you want. That means he's actually going to be good, and the people that he talks about a lot end up being bad. Maybe this is exactly what he needs.
As a Titans fan, I think it's an interesting balance, because I really do like Brian Callahan in that setting, in terms of the information that he provides and the willingness that he has to discuss what he thinks about his football team. So I like all that. I just, we've talked about it. I thought we talked a lot about Levis yesterday with the praise from Callahan last year before he had ever taken a snap in Brian Callahan's system. And I thought there were times where it got a little bit overboard. And obviously it played out that way. I just think being a little bit more cautious in that approach this year would probably be the route I would take if I was Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think the overall messaging, I think that's definitely a takeaway from last year. And it was probably more, well, I guess the Levis part was Callahan. Other than that, it was probably more on the Rand side of things with like the, I had 19 guys call and say, by golly, I can't believe you took that player because I was going to take him and all that. And, it checked everybody. Oh, yeah, that stuff. The overall organization, I should have had a conversation about messaging. Like, we can't do that again. But yeah, I mean, look, I think Callahan is an optimist. I think he sees what the best could be in a player. And so a lot of times he communicates that, which is fine, but sometimes it can get you in trouble.
Skylar on the text line says, as a Titans fan, go out and show us a quarterback not running for his life for the 4th year in a row. Don't say a word about the offensive line. Just show us. This is from Skylar on the text line. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Larry to the program. Larry, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Man, good morning. Y'all done got me off in a bad mood talking about my boy Will Levis. Like, it's unbelievable. The last year and a half, couple of years, just like the texter said, this offensive line has been absolutely garbage. I mean, Will Levis is out there trying to make plays for our Titans last year, and yes, he made a few mistakes, but you know who also made a bunch of mistakes his rookie season? Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning made a bunch of mistakes. Levis has been out in California training with Carson Palmer's brother. He's probably going to be, going to turn it around, and we sit here and use the number 1 pick on Cam Ward. Unbelievable. Give the guy a chance. You brought on all these offensive linemen who should be better, and we're just going to give the ball to Cam Ward and let him try to make plays when Will Levis never really had a good chance behind a good line or good receivers.
Thank you for the call, Larry. Appreciate it. And a nice Levis Peyton Manning comparison there, Joe.
Yeah, we've heard those. Someone else texted about this too. Like, why can't Levis get a chance with this offensive line? Like I don't know what to say. It's good to have the variety of opinions, right? And just like we've got the Cam Doos and we got the What Are You Doings, and there's the Cam Doos are growing in number every day. What is someone who's still trying to keep Levis afloat? The Levis-taters. The Levis-taters might need. Oh man! See, this is the creativity that comes out of me when I get home at 1 a.m. after a Metallica concert. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, he's not going to be the starting quarterback at the Tennessee Titans. I think there is a chance someday, somewhere, he could have another shot. But again, this is all these things. Every time it comes up, Robbie, this is part of why. I understand we can talk about whatever we want, and they're in that building, and they don't have to listen to everything we say. But they talk in the building too. This is why you move them.
Ian, what's our verdict on the Cam Doos, the What Are You Doings, and the Levis taters that Rexrode has thrown out there?
Not terrible. Not terrible.
Yes, thank you, Ian. I mean, Ian was so patient
giving him
with
oxygen.
Jared's. I mean,
Ian's giving him oxygen. That's all he needs. It's not terrible.
I was gonna say, if Ian ripped me for that, I was gonna have to be like, years of enabling Jared.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More conversation to get to on the offensive line front. More of your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The quarterback situation and the reps that Brian Callahan were talking about, the offensive line comments he made yesterday, everything on the table. Stilly coming up at 7 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away to see Shinedown at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, May the 10th. Be caller number 4, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Caller 4 will win a pair of tickets to see Shinedown at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Saturday, May the 10th. Make sure you tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on Gwinnett. Pregame at 5:50, first pitch at 6:05. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Jared Stillman coming up here at 7 o'clock. We'll get into all things Titans with him. So, Joe,
Hey, Robby,
go ahead.
Real quick, I would just like to apologize for any previous comments disparaging Shinedown.
Really?
And also, I'd like Jared to get his shine box and get here, top of the hour.
Maybe time for you to log off for the remainder of the day.
Cam do.
Oh, boy. Rexrode's on one today.
Still floating, baby.
Hey, man. So let's operate under the assumption here that the offensive line is good. They come in and Cam Ward's got time. Obviously, that's a welcome change of pace here, and that's what you want to see based on how bad it's been the last 3 years with the line. What if it's not? What if for the fourth consecutive year, Joe, they have a bad offensive line that does not give the quarterback as much time as they need? You've addressed it again in the offseason. You have Bill Callahan in as your guru offensive line coach, and he just doesn't fix it. What happens again if this thing is bad, and how much pressure is on Brian and Bill Callahan to make sure that regardless of the record, regardless of what else happens with the receivers, all that, you better get the offensive line fixed this year?
Yeah, like if the Titans, whatever, they have a 6-11 or whatever it is, and the defense is bad, I mean, I think that's not good for Denard Wilson. I think he needs to have a bounce back year after some deceiving stats did not tell the story of a pretty bad defense last year. And again, bad roster, but I feel like even though we're so focused on the quarterback aspect of this, and rightfully so, that's number one. I think a pretty close second is if your offensive line, if you move Latham, it doesn't work, for whatever reason it is. If you're bad again, you just invested in a left tackle who can't play, who isn't a starting caliber left tackle, which by the way is a possibility here. Man, that's a huge indictment of. And again, this is where it's like, look, one of the best things about Brian Callahan was that you now get Bill Callahan as your offensive line coach. I said all last year, guys, this roster stinks, and you can't sit here, and you can if you want, like our next guest, of course. I mean, I heard our next guest say Chig sucks. Like, he must have said it like 12 times yesterday. Like, dude, just try a different word. So, of course, he immediately went to, like, Bill Callahan is overrated or whatever. I mean, last year does not outweigh or even close to diminishing his whole career, which has been a great career. But if you have a second straight year, you do all this shuffling, get new players, move a guy from left to the right that everybody said, oh, we thought he was a right tackle. No, he's a left tackle. Oh, actually, yes, he's a right tackle. And it's bad, then, man, that's a close second to me in terms of, like, what aspects of this team could fail, and it'd be a really bad thing for the coach.
Well, I think if that happens, then they're not going to be here. Like, if they have first off, their roster right now, in my opinion, at the skill position on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, take your pick, is not good enough, again, to overcome a bad offensive line. And Cam Ward, I expect Cam Ward this year, once he settles in, to give you better quarterback play than you got from Will Levis last year. I don't think that's a very high bar to clear. So I expect that to happen. However, do I think that Cam Ward as a rookie is going to come in and be good enough to overcome a bad offensive line again? I have my doubts. Like, some guys can do that. Some guys can overcome that. I mean, Burrow pretty quickly in his career overcame that, but there's not a whole lot of Joe Burrows walking around out there. So, like, to me, Joe, if they come in the offensive line with the draft capital that they've spent on it, now with the free agency money that they've spent on it, if they come in here again and they're not good, I mean, to me, first off, that's going to lead to probably another abysmal year to watch this offense play, which nobody wants. And it's also going to lead to just an absolutely terrible record out there. So if that happens again, they're gone. I mean, to me, Cam Ward coming in and playing well this year, some of that is going to have to be, the offensive line, a prerequisite of being significantly improved. Now, do I look at their offensive line right now, Joe, and say, wow, they've gone from having maybe the worst offensive line in the league to some top 10 group? No, I don't think that. I just need them to get to average. Like, I need them to get to, like, passable on the offensive line. That's the first step before we can start worrying about good at that point.
I mean, can you get to the low 20s?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be greedy and say high teens. That might be crazy talk. But get to the low 20s. Because last year, if you aren't 32, then you got to tell me who 32 is.
Yeah.
So again,
and
the
really
bar's
the last
low.
few years. Like, they've been
right.
brutal for a while.
Yeah, it's been the worst offensive line absolutely in football. I mean, since, well, certainly I think 22 it's when it really started to take the downturn. We know all the issues, the revolving door, and just terrible choices at left tackle since they lost Taylor Lewan. So again, Dan Moore is really going to be the biggest part of the answer to the question, and I don't know that that's terribly comforting, but we'll see.
Let's go back to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Cam on the text line says, some of our fan base are delusional. Levis is no longer the quarterback because he continued to make the same mistakes over and over. To be an NFL quarterback, you have to adapt and learn from mistakes. Levis did not do that, so we move on to the next one. Chris on the text line says, I want to hear Callahan come out and say that they screwed Levis with that crap offensive line. Two totally different ends of the spectrum there, Joe.
Yeah. Man, the Levis taters they seem few and far between, but there are some,
they're more prevalent than I thought. I'll put it that way.
And then, but whenever a Levis tater emerges, then the backlash is pretty intense,
pretty severe.
Like people immediately jump on those people. But I suppose, again, it's like people who, even though Marcus Mariota was fine, he's a pretty good quarterback. But there's people who still want to say he was really good, right? I mean, there's still people who actually think that Marcus was a great quarterback who just got screwed by the Titans. At some point, you have to look at a QB. And I'm not saying with again, I'm not closing the book on Levis in this league, but I just don't know how you look at last year and take all the responsibility away from him or most of it and put it on everything else. He deserves enough that's why he's in the situation he's in.
Oh, Cam Ward's good for no other reason than people say, oh, that's what good quarterback play looks like. So we never have to bring up Levis or Mariota ever again. That's what I hope.
Yeah, and again, now Kaharski's on this hard, but it is worth mentioning, I think, with the Levis thing. And this is, I guess, fuel for the Levis taters. But look, Mason Rudolph, who has looked decent in his career, had some pretty good stretches. There are some Steelers fans who think he should start for them.
He was horrible last year.
Yeah, he was.
What does that tell you?
He looked right. So, I mean, it was a bad situation for any quarterback. If you had Cam Ward, and again, I don't know how good this offensive line is going to be. I don't know if these receivers that they've added are going to really make a difference. But if you had Cam Ward right now and you put him on last year's team, it wouldn't go well at all. And we would, he might play better than Levis did overall, but it wouldn't go well at all. It would not be a encouraging season for Cam Ward with that offense. A
different Cam on the text line says, am I the only one distracted with Joe's 2015 included plug-in Apple headphones? That's what I call karaoke 2004 mic. This is why teenagers are attacking your son with water guns. I'm convinced of it. Joe clearly brings out their inner Arnold/Stallone.
I mean, I've tried to do the AirPods thing, but it doesn't work. I think this microphone's pretty awesome, frankly.
Microphone is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a smooth, deep, rich mahogany voice.
Yeah, and I kind of like that it's handheld too. I think it adds a certain flavor to it.
I did some videos for the Athletic for the Final Four, and the producers were like, hey, could you hold that microphone low so people don't have? I'm like, oh, we don't think the mic's cool because I'm sitting here. I mean,
does anybody really care?
Phil Donahue hosting my talk show?
Yeah.
No, we don't think that's cool. As far as the water guns, that's over tomorrow. Let's all thank the Lord.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Jared Stillman will be with us coming up next. I'm sure that this will be very interesting between Stilly and Rexrode. Fresh off another Jared versus Joe win for Jared Stillman. We'll get into that. Robby and
Whatever.
Rexrode 1025, 1063 the game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you, and we welcome in our friend Jared Stillman to the program. Stilly, first off, congrats to you, another first-round exit from John Hines, official last night after they lose to Vegas. Way to go.
I actually was ready to start the show by saying, tough luck for John Hines. Maybe one of these days, Lord willing, he will make it out of the first round of the NHL playoffs. But so far, he's had about 19 tries, and he's 0 for 19.
Who you got? You got Lavi? Are you pushing for Lavi, your boy?
Have I said that?
I'm asking you.
For the coach of the Predators?
Yeah.
I think Andrew Burnett's going to be the coach of the Predators. So I'm not sure that there's much discussion to be had there.
I'm interested to see if your boy ends up somewhere else, if he gets another job. I guess we'll wait and see what happens. Yeah.
You know, I think this might be the end of the road for him.
I think it might be too, but we'll see exactly what happens on that front. So, Jared, Brian Callahan spoke yesterday, and there's a couple different things there I want to get to with you on that. But let's start with this. You know, he got up there, and Borgonzi did this too after the draft and started talking about the quarterbacks and the reps, and you know, we're not going to name a starting quarterback right now, which whatever. But then he started talking about the reps and it being performance-based and how many reps these guys get is up to them. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself as he's talking, Jared, why are we doing this? Like, why are we going through this dog and pony show? We all know that Cam Ward's going to end up being starting quarterback. And frankly, I think he needs every rep he can possibly get here. So I didn't really like that. I don't really like going through this dog and pony show, this dance, that it's some sort of open competition here at quarterback. What say you?
Well, remember that the Houston Texans had a competition at quarterback between Davis Mills, C.J. Stroud, and Case Keenum. And C.J. Stroud didn't even play very well in the preseason and still won the job. So I'm sure that's probably what's going to happen here. What did bother me, though, I was having some flashbacks yesterday when I heard Callahan talking about reps and competition and everything else. And I thought, wasn't that the whole discussion about right tackle this time last year was who's the right tackle? Well, we've got a lot of reps and we're going to have a big competition and we're going to have only to have PT not play during OTAs because he was hurt. And then in training camp, he missed the first 2 weeks. And then he got in there and they just gave him the job. So when I hear Brian Callahan talking about competition, I'm like, I'd like to see you actually have a competition, because last year there were supposed to be competitions going into camp. And then Sadiq Charles quit. And so they gave that job to Dylan Radins. And PT was, I guess, not as bad as Duncan, although he and Duncan ended up being roughly the same bad, but they just gave that job to him. So I would anticipate that being no different at the quarterback position. I agree it's a dog and pony show, but I heard TD say on the Power Hour yesterday, he said, you know, that that this has been a plan years in the making for Mike Borgonzi. And I'm still trying to figure out what's so special about this Mike Borgonzi plan that's any different than what the stupid teams do, which is draft a quarterback in the first round, throw him out there with a coach you don't even like, who you're going to fire at the end of the year, and just feed him to the wolves. And I'm trying to figure out how this is different than that plan.
What do you mean years of just saying that, like going back to Kansas City stuff? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I keep trying to figure out what Borgonzi's super plan is that he talked about you have to have for the young quarterback. And then PK asked him about the plan, and he essentially did not elaborate much on the plan. And TD says this plan has been years in the making. I don't know what it is, but apparently it's been years in the making. So we'll see if they actually have a plan.
What did you think of what have you thought of the way the Titans have handled, you know, their pressers, different people? Apparently you got really upset about some scouts talking. I don't know. I just hear this is hearsay, you know, for me on social media. People tell me things and, you know, I just sort of react. Sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. But you know, what do you think of the way the Titans have handled talking about all of this stuff, including the deal that they could have taken from the Giants?
I think that the Titans have decided to tell all of us that they think Cam Ward is a super prospect. Like the way they talk about Cam Ward is the way that I envisioned people looked at Trevor Lawrence, who was probably the best quarterback draft prospect of the last 10 years. You know, he and Caleb were up there as the slam dunk, no doubt number ones. And the way they're talking about it, Borgonzi and Callahan and Brinker, is as if Cam Ward, who nobody has said is that kind of prospect, is that kind of prospect. So somebody has to be right. Somebody has to be wrong. When it's an instance of the Titans over here on the right and everybody else over here on the left, usually everybody else is right and the Titans are not. And that's been the case for a long while. We'll see with Vrabel, because everybody over here thinks Vrabel's a great coach and the Titans say no, no, no. So we'll see, who's right, who's wrong. As far as the scouts and stuff talking, I don't give a rat's ass about the scouts. I don't care about what Dave Ziegler has to say. I'm sorry. I care about the people who are in charge. I care what the coach says. President, general manager, I don't really know the dynamic there as to who's actually in charge. So I just lump them together, but they both talk and that's fine. But I don't care to hear from the scouts. Nobody is going to sit there. Robby, did you get that audio from the scouts? Play those cuts back and discuss what they said?
What if they had great comments? I think that's possible if they said something really
What if they had a great comment, which they didn't have? But what if they did? Then who knows? What if they assassinated JFK, Jared?
No,
I don't know.
I don't eliminate them. I don't eliminate them as a possibility for something we talk about just because they're scouts. I mean, they should have good insight, right? Like they're the ones who spent all this time assessing the prospects.
But to your point, we're probably more worried about Borgonzi and what he says.
I don't care about this ain't T-ball where everybody needs to get in at bat. I do not care about what the scouts say or anything else. The scouts answer to Borgonzi and Borgonzi answers to all of us.
Were they on the draft call?
It's
7 people calling every person they drafted.
Exactly. So this reminds me of something years and years and years ago.
Cam,
I think
I'd like to talk to Jared now, Cam.
Somebody said they were like, hey, how would you feel about talking to the assistant general manager instead of the general manager? And I said to the person asking me that at the time, I said, no, thank you. And they said, really? Why not? I said, because I'm not the assistant radio host. So when it comes to throwing out when it comes out to throwing out your area scouts and PKs, all like, how can you Titan fans listen to this guy? He doesn't give a rat's ass about who the national scouts are. I do not care. Do not care at all. Zero. So, if you want to go write an interesting piece, Joe, you can probably reach out to the Titans. They'll set you up with whatever scout you want to talk to, and that's fine. But for all of us that live in the real world, we care what the general manager has to say, and what the team president has to say, and what the head coach has to say. I mean, it's like when the assistant coaches talk like that one time, a month that they have to talk, and all the reporters are posting videos like, here's what the outside linebacker coach had to say. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what the outside linebacker coach has to say.
Sometimes
people care about what the coach has to say and the people calling the plays have to say. That's all anybody cares about.
If a particular player at that position is a newsworthy player, for example, whatever, like the receivers coach, when we still thought that Traylon Burks might be good, those.
Can you name the outside linebacker coach right now for the Titans?
I don't think that I can.
Can you name the defensive line coach for the Titans?
You've got me when I haven't looked at these people in a while. Yes, I know who they are. I need a refresher.
No, it's okay. You can admit you don't know who the outside linebacker coach is. PK is not just because PK cares doesn't mean anybody else cares, Robby.
I'm just saying. Some people care.
I think it's Ben Bloom as the outside linebackers coach. I could be wrong. And I think it's Tracy Rocker as the defensive line coach. That one I'm pretty sure about.
That one is Rocker.
But again,
it has been Bloom. You're correct.
Who cares? Who cares? Tell me something interesting about Ben Bloom.
What about Bill Callahan? Do you value what he said?
Not anymore. Last year,
that was it.
Last year they sold everybody. This J.C. Latham thing was he was Bill Callahan's favorite player. And I said, "Oh, good, is Bill the GM now?" Because apparently, it's Bill's favorite player. I mean, look, the one thing was when Bill Callahan got the job and he was hailed as the second coming. I said, okay, let's, he met with the media and I said, can we put him at the podium? Because people actually want to hear what he has to say. And the Times like, no, we can't treat him any different than any other assistant coach. Okay.
So, apparently the Chig Okonkwo world tour in the offseason has upset you.
How about that?
Where'd he go?
The entire
the UK. He went to Japan. He went to, where else did he go? Brazil was involved
Australia,
in there.
Brazil, and Costa Rica.
And apparently that is limited his possibility to improve in your mind, yes?
Oh, good God. You did not say this stupid crap. Please tell me.
The
you
best
didn't say
was
this.
the best
Ugh.
was about a month ago when PT got cut. Vingan texted or Vingan said that his theory of who the next apple of my ire was going to be Chigakonkwo. And I remember when he said that, and my initial reaction was, boy, I am kind of sick of Chig. And I'm listening to the Brian Callahan press conference yesterday, and Callahan goes off and Chig comes up. And I was really this close to not listening. And I listened to the Chig press conference and I was just appalled. He's talking about his, to Robbie's point, his world tour, where he went into all those countries and was like, yeah, I had a good off season. You know, I went to Australia and Brazil and the UK and Japan and Costa Rica. So I took a little bit of time for myself. And so then when I went on the midday show yesterday, Adam was like, so I hear you're upset with Chigakonkwo. I said, Derek, when you played, you know, how many countries did you visit in the off season? In a given off season? And D May said, well, you know, I really only had time. I usually went on one vacation and then I got right back to training because training was so important to me. And I just got right back to training. And I was like, well, Chig went to all these different countries and we all laughed about it. But again, you know, there's a serious NFL player that put together out of the fourth round a 15-year NFL career and made a bunch of money for himself. And, you know, very successful Hall of Fame caliber numbers. And then there's Chig who can't catch. And so I think that kind of shows you the difference.
No, I mean, it's tough because when you go to another country, there's no chance to run or lift or anything like that. It's only in this country that you have implements with which to train. So
I
guess for Derek Mason,
as usual,
I guess for Derek Mason, that was the case.
Hey, man, you hang out in Australia long enough, you'll be running away from something. You'll get that cardio in.
Chig's entire press conference was just such a joke. They asked what he wanted to improve on, and he was like, just taking advantage of the opportunities I got late in the season. How about blocking where you suck? How about getting better there? And then he said that Cam Ward has already won over the locker room, even though
I did find that one interesting. Yeah.
Has not been there for one practice. And as D Mace also said at the end of the midday show, is impossible for Cam Ward to have won over the locker room at this point.
Yeah, I found that one interesting.
But I'm sure Joe has an issue with that, saying like, oh, maybe Cam Ward went in there and did win over the locker room. You don't know, Jared.
No, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's
Since
dumb.
you think
but your Chig travel thing is also very, very dumb.
Taking 5 international trips in the span of 2 months
somewhere. Oh,
when you suck that bad, yeah, I'd like you to work. I'd like you to focus on.
You better
football.
stay. You give me that passport. You're going to throw that in the fireplace. You go. No, you're not even allowed to go to the store. You sit there and train.
I bet Chig's got his real ID.
Chigakonkwo, you got to have a passport for that, which you don't need a real ID for if you have a passport. Chigakonkwo last year
good point you made.
Was 27th in yards at tight end, 21st in touchdowns. Pro Football Focus graded him 32nd of 37 qualifying tight ends. He was top 10 in one category, drops, in which he was tied for 5th in the NFL, and his run blocking grade per PFF was a solid 36.0. Yeah, go take another trip, Chig. You don't need to work on your game at all.
Well, now he's probably the second string. Gunnar Helm going to come in, be starting tight end. Jared, good stuff. We'll be listening at 2:00.
Gentlemen, take care.
Jared Stillman, our guest here, joins us every Friday morning at 7:00. We'll react to what Stilly had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I think I saw you tweet maybe or post on social about your off-season travels. Where'd you go? And who'd you go with this off-season? What was it like?
Man, I was with the tight ends a lot of the time for a lot of the trips. I went to Costa Rica first. Then we had a little trip to Australia. And from there went to Japan. And then I had a little trip to the UK and then Brazil. So I got to get around this offseason. It was fun.
What was the highlight?
Man, I really enjoyed Japan just because Japan was like a trip I've always wanted to go on since a kid. So finally getting out there, and it was like everything I thought it was going to be. So it was really cool.
Chigaconqua all over the place in the offseason, baby.
God.
Japan,
The nerve.
Costa Rica, the UK, Australia, Brazil. That's a busy offseason, Joe.
Are you kidding me? How could he travel? How could he, during time off, which everyone takes in an off season, use it to travel? Good God, that is embarrassing. If he's not cut today, this is an unserious organization.
Hey, I would love to know the timeline. It's like, how do you fit that many trips into the timeline there? I feel like, that's all over the world. Brazil, Japan, Australia.
That is a lot of travel.
UK. None of those places are close to each other.
That is true. That is, was it like different trips back, forth, or was it like one humongous world tour?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know.
Either way.
You think he learned how to block while he was on those trips?
He should have been right here. He should have bought himself, should have spent that money that he spent traveling on his own blocking sled. In his own, not even in his yard. You're not even allowed to go in your yard and do it. You need to be in your house and hitting the blocking sled every day, every hour of every day.
Yeah.
You need Bill Callahan to make you a custom blocking sled to keep at your house.
With a nice name
a
to
new
it.
one. Yeah.
Birdie. But like to go to the bathroom, you should have to like smash into the blocking sled and earn your urination. That's really what it should be. Where does Jared go? Let's see. Jared goes, I think he goes maybe like Turks and Caicos sometimes. He goes to Bahamas, I feel like a fair amount. Definitely Canada. He gets a. So I think that in this next year we should we'll keep a running list of his horrific takes, and then we'll have to dictate if he's going to be able to travel or not in the next year. Because if his takes are going to keep sucking like this, I think he needs to stay home and work on his takes.
Well, he's going to tell you that he's way better at his job than Chigaconqua is at his job. That's what he'll say.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're serious about this stuff, if you're serious about your job, then I don't think you should be traveling. That's the message I'm getting from him, isn't it?
It is.
I thought Jared was serious about his job. He talks about how he's the greatest. His bio on our website says Jared is the #1 voice in Nashville, like big, all in caps. If that's what you're claiming, I don't think you should be traveling anymore. You should be working on your takes all times.
The quote I just got from Stillman on my own personal text line. The difference is I'm good and Chig is not.
There you go. There you go. Hey, that's actually Jared just said he's good.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest insults he's given himself. He usually tries to find a way to like get bones out of his spine so we can gobble himself on the air for all to hear.
Multiple comments about your earn your urination take that you just thrown out there. Maybe some shirts that need to be made. Fly is open. Let's go pee.
That's right. Nice.
I enjoyed that take.
The
Chig, one thing that I
want to make a sandwich, Chig? Get through that blocking sled.
The one thing I agree with Stilly on, I did hear the Chigaconqua comments on Cam Ward yesterday about how he's already won over the locker room. I'm like, shouldn't you have to be around everybody first? Shouldn't you have to maybe step foot on the field before you've won over the locker room? We had this nice story yesterday that Charles has told a couple times on our show about Jaden Daniels and a throw that he made and a check that he made in a preseason game, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, that guy's a dude. I feel like there probably needs to be some sort of, something that happens on the field when you went over the locker room. That's just my thought.
He has an awesome TikTok dance. Everybody's like, oh yeah,
that's the guy.
He's the guy. Yeah. That is silly. That I will agree that's not one of the takes that will restrict Jared's travel in 2026. That is, that's pretty ridiculous. He's won over the locker. He's already done it. Oh, really? So wait, so you guys hate Levis now? Well, no, I mean, what? Yeah, maybe let him,
If he's won over the locker room, the open competition and the reps, they need to be decided at this point. If he's already won the locker room, then we don't need to see anybody else.
If he's won the locker room, does that mean Levis is just going to give him his reps?
I don't know. It's a good question. Cam, you take him. I don't need him. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm here to support you, buddy.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Some executives have weighed in on the draft, and they had some very interesting comments on the Titans. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. The 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor presented by Gary Force Acura at Hermitage Golf Course coming up Thursday, May the 29th. You can sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Make sure you tune in today to 102.5 The Game for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores take on Alabama. Pregame beginning at 5:45, first pitch at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Joe, some NFL executives have weighed in on the NFL draft. Mike Sando putting this together at The Athletic, which he does on a yearly basis. And some interesting comments on the Titans. I want to read just a couple of thoughts from this. Again, you can find it at The Athletic from Mike Sando. Says the two teams picking in the top 5 with new GMs, Tennessee and Jacksonville, were rightfully excited about the players they selected. But when Titans GM Mike Borgonzi invoked Patrick Mahomes while discussing number 1 pick Cam Ward, and when Jags GM James Gladstone, your boy, talked about Travis Hunter possibly challenging the boundaries of the sport, some execs saw no upside in setting expectations so high. In the Titans case, Borgonzi was more measured than Gladstone, but both GMs are coming from places where elite head coaches got the most from their players when they drafted. There's no Andy Reid in Tennessee, no Sean McVay in Jacksonville. And one exec, Joe, said this, quote, "There are so many things Kansas City had that I do not think Tennessee has, and then it's not the same player. You have to be really disciplined and understand that the worst thing you can do is put a young quarterback in a bad situation," end quote there. What do you make of the executives weighing in on Mike Borgonzi invoking Patrick Mahomes and some of the qualities that he has as it relates to Cam Ward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I could be wrong, but to be fair to Borgonzi, I believe it's only been when he's asked.
That
right?
is correct.
Yeah. So, and
honestly, when you listen to Borgonzi's answer, it was just like, yeah, we saw he's got some traits that Mahomes has, which I don't think is really going. I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks that have some traits that Mahomes has.
Well, but look, as we've talked about, he does resemble him at times in terms of the off-platform stuff, crazy throws. He wiggles out of the pocket and scramble drill, and he makes a crazy. Like there are some commonalities. So I mean, now Louis Riddick goes too far with have the impact, although he never defined it. But that's like, whoa, what are you saying? But the comparison is they're stylistic comparisons. I think Borgonzi's been pretty hesitant. And yeah, but if we're going to compare this situation to that one, well, yeah, it's a way worse one. No doubt. You have a playoff team with a good starter, and it's viewed as a luxury pick.
Yeah.
This is like when the Titans were still good, and then they use a 3rd-round pick on Malik Willis as opposed to helping Ryan Tannehill, be better. I mean, that's also when they trade AJ Brown, they just completely. We know what happened. It started to go downhill fast from there. But I mean, this is obviously it is a bad situation. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, how bad is the situation? I don't know. I mean, how many quarterbacks have been able to go into a bad situation and be okay? Some of them make it better, like Burrow did. Peyton Manning had an awful rookie year, and obviously we know what happened there. There aren't that many examples, though. But the thing is, this is where you are. I mean, you don't see teams. I'm trying to think of who's the last number 1 overall pick who didn't start right away. And someone else may have talked about this. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But it's not realistic in this league anymore.
Well,
if you have a good playoff team with a good starter, great. You can do that. If you are the Packers, you can do what they did. But most teams don't have that situation. The Titans sure as heck don't have that situation.
Well, we talked about did Baker Mayfield start immediately, the first game? I don't remember that he did. I know Jared Goff did not. Jared Goff sat for most of his first year, and I think he ended up playing 7-8 games, something like that. His first year.
That's almost a decade ago.
It does happen, right? Now, Bryce Young was playing immediately. Obviously, Caleb Williams was playing immediately. Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. So it doesn't happen all that often. And frankly, with the situation that they're in right now, Cam Ward's going to have to play. Cam Ward's going to have to play immediately.
Yeah, it's just so they are. Look, I think that exec is dead on, and it's the biggest. Again, one of the worst traits to me of Cam Ward is the team he's joining.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's no fault of his own, obviously. But
Looks like Baker started week 3.
week 3.
Okay.
So I knew it was
Okay.
early, but it wasn't right away.
So hey, maybe we're talking. Maybe this whole show is actually we're coming across the realization that Will Levis starts week 1.
Yeah.
How about that?
Maybe so.
Get excited, Nashville.
Maybe so. I mean, look, that's part of. At the end of the day, how important is this? I don't think very. Like you're making the number 1 overall pick at quarterback because you think long term he is your franchise guy and he's going to be the guy that elevates you to competing for championships. That's why you make the pick at number 1 overall. So at the end of the day, is it really that important that he starts week 1? Not really. Like it's not that important. However, like given the state of their quarterback room right now and where things are, and like, frankly, we don't really have this discussion with other positions, right? Like I don't think anybody's asking whether or not Travis Hunter's going to start or Will Campbell's going to start or Abdul Carter's going to start. All those guys are going to play. They're going to play immediately. Quarterback's the one position where we kind of dance around with this a while. Now, granted, it's the most complicated position. It's the most important position in sports. But like, I think with where they're at, Cam Ward is going to have to play. And frankly, like with where their quarterback room is right now, I would be disappointed if he's not ready to play week 1 and doesn't beat out the rest of these guys that are currently in their room.
Yeah. And to the point, I think Jared made the point earlier. Another good point I'm pointing out by Jared. It's like, was Stroud like amazing? I don't remember. I mean, honestly, I don't remember what the reps were, but I do remember what he said, which was technically he was in, and those were both quarterbacks who, to me, are more viable as starters than anybody the Titans have right now, And still, even after all that, I was like, yeah, of course, CJ is starting, and he immediately was good. Again, that turned out to be a much better situation for a young quarterback than I think anyone realized. Although, really, they had some years of being bad. They had all those picks. They had built the roster up pretty well. That's still. Obviously, it's easy to say in retrospect, but I mean, look at that situation for him. Look at this one for Cam. This is a way worse situation.
It's a way worse situation. And then the question becomes, not everybody walks into what obviously Mahomes walked into in Kansas City, right? Like, I mean, you had at the time he walked in, Travis Kelce at the height of his powers. You had Tyreek Hill. You had Andy Reid. I mean, that's a heck of a setup that you're walking into. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Mahomes because like it didn't take long watching Mahomes play. Look, I remember Mahomes' rookie year. They played the Titans in the preseason game, and Mahomes rolled out to the right and threw like a 60-yard bomb off his back foot. And I was like, who is that? Like, who is that guy? And so, like, and the more you hear coming out from Kansas City, like Travis Kelce's talked about this. A lot of guys on Kansas City has talked about this. Like, as that year went on and he sat behind Alex Smith, in practice, he started to show like, okay, this guy is going to be pretty darn good. So I'm not saying that Mahomes is a product of his situation, but I think it's inarguable that he walked into a very, very good situation. And the fact is, Cam Ward is walking into none of that. Like, there's nobody close to Tyreek Hill. There's nobody, I mean, unless Gunnar Helm comes out, it's unbelievable, which I guess he could be. There's nobody close to Travis Kelce right now. And look, Brian Callahan, we'll see what he's like. He's certainly not Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid had been to what? 4, 5 conference championship games in Philadelphia by the time that Mahomes had stepped in there. Like, it's just a totally different situation. So again, like Mahomes probably would have been great no matter where he went. But the fact is the situation that he has walked into and that he entered into has helped him a lot.
Yeah, no question. And look, we don't know. We have 1 year of bad football and with a very bad roster for Brian Callahan. I'm still open to the idea that he could be a very good coach in this league, but obviously compare that to what you just laid out there with Andy Reid, right? Now at the same time, you take Joe Burrow back to Cincy, you take this guy who's here, he was the OC, and nobody was singing those guys' praises. And look, some people are going to say, yeah, they were just propped up by Burrow. I mean, look, I think right now more and more people are probably saying that about Bill Belichick, although there were already a lot saying it. But like, it's a huge part of the equation, and so that is the thing that, like, I just still don't know. Like, are these guys going to be able to figure it out in terms of putting him in the best position to succeed? I'm not ruling that out because of anything we saw on the field last year. I know some people will.
We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. For a limited time, grab half off a $25 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Area scouts and PKs all like, how can you Titan fan live in this day? He doesn't give a rat's ass about who the national scouts are.
Coach Harbaugh came out of the bathroom and I said, Coach, I would be honored to pour some liquid soap into your hand.
He elevates the space around him. From the football field to the city to the game of football itself. Travis Hunter is who we've been hunting up.
Oh, it's another one of these Super Bowls. It's so awesome. Go to the prom after this. Yeah, you will really get farted up with that stuff. Okay.
She goes fox hunting, and you stand guard for assassin.
Yeah, well, you're like, yeah, it's not Springsteen.
Rexrode.
It is that time of the day, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode, which you can check out every day here on this program. Joe Rexrode, fresh off the Metallica concert last night. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I will touch on that. I had the YouTube chat has me triggered, so we're gonna pivot to that here in a minute. But I will quickly talk a little bit about last night. First of all, I like I said earlier, Chase and I are pre-gaming as my son finishes his essay. Good good job. Like got to bring your laptop. Okay, well, you got to bring it. So he did that, finished it. So we didn't have time to get food. So we go to go into the stadium. Pantera's playing. So I had to see a little Pantera. I was actually. I thought I'd see a bunch of people with like cobras on their tattoos on their skulls. But Pantera was good. I enjoyed Pantera. So, I gave him the credit card. Go ahead, you go and, get yourself some food. He comes back with, he comes back with like 2 baskets of every type of, like appetizer they have and like the hot chicken. That's fine. Okay. So we're sitting in our seats and jamming out to some Pantera, before Metallica. And then, this couple comes to the seat. So, how when you go, you don't know which side to go in for the section.
Yeah.
So I went on the wrong side. So I had to go through people to go all the way down to my seats. I should have gone in the other thing. Right. So anyway, we're sitting in our seats and the guy's like, yeah, we're here. And I'm like, no, man. Yeah. And I showed him my phone on my seat. And I showed, it was like section P, whatever, seats 3 and 4. He's like, yeah, this is Q. And of course, Brennan's like, oh, Dad, this is so dumb, Dad. It's like, well, I walked through the other side. You see, I'm like, oh, I'm on this side. And then I just went on the wrong row. And the guy kind of gave me like a smug look. And I'm like, do you have to embarrass me in front of my kid? You see, that wouldn't have been that good of a rant anyway.
That was your opportunity to throw down at Metallica, and I think you missed it.
Yeah, it was fine. So we went to the right row. And like I said, I had 10 songs, and they played Harvester of Sorrow, Orion, Battery, Leper Messiah, and Creeping Death. I mean, Leper Messiah being played was pretty amazing. Great Master of Puppets outing. So, but I want to pivot to just let's talk through what people are saying. Like, William Titan here says, I hope Levis starts so Rex and company are tilted. What's wrong with going easy and easing the dude in the season? Is let him play a few weeks, make sure he looks good, then trade him for a 5th. Dizar says, yeah, Cam sits, Levis looks good. We trade Levis next offseason like Darnold, prosper. Guys, if Will Levis starts the opener, like Titans fans are going to, I think they're probably going to stage a protest outside this. That's not possible, right? It's just not possible. It's not happening. I don't understand. Actually talk yourself through the scenarios which would lead to that happening. It would be first of all, I understand the idea of giving a quarterback time and all that. We understand it's ideal if you can. Also, you got to understand, they can't. They can't. Their situation is, for better, for worse, and probably for worse, but we'll see, is that they have a bad team and they have a quarterback who is the only viable option to start for that team, and he's going to start week 1. There is 0.0% chance that Will Levis starts. And I think you think of it in terms of, yeah, that sounds good. He could play, Cam could rest, then we could trade Levis. do you understand? Like 90+% of the fan base would completely lose its mind. And you can say they don't care about the fan base. The players on the team. I mean, is it ridiculous they would be won over by Cam Ward? Yes, it's ridiculous. Do you think the players on this team would be like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's have Levis start next year. And Cam, he can just sit here and continue to play Fortnite and tell us how we're all awesome. I mean, no one would stand for it. It's not happening. There's no way it's happening. We got to stop talking about it.
Well, and I still don't think it's a guarantee that Levis is going to be here by the time training camp rolls around. Maybe he will be.
There's a good chance he's not.
Like maybe they can't get anything done and he comes into camp. But I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And I know PK disagrees with me on that, and that's fine. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to have him around. I don't think it's a great scenario for Cam Ward to have him around. Not that I think that Will Levis is like some bad guy or is going to cause some issue, but it's exactly what we're talking about today, right? Like just eliminate the conversation entirely. Eliminate the conversation. Give it Ward and Brandon Allen as your two quarterbacks. Keep Tim Boyle around, I guess, as the third quarterback to see, kind of what happens there. But I just think it makes a lot of sense to move on, cut ties. It's a fresh start for Levis somewhere else. And we'll see whether or not they're able to do that by the time, the training camp rolls up. A lot of people the other day was like, see, they said that they weren't even trying to move Will Levis at the draft. It's like, yeah, I hear what they said. What they said and what actually went down sometimes don't always line up. If no one's interested in Will Levis in the draft, is it really you trying to trade him? I don't know. Like I would be cautious to just be like, see, they love Will Levis. Keep him around. I still think there's a decent chance he's not going to be here by the time camp rolls around.
Imagine, look, this is where we all want these people to tell the truth, right? As much as possible. But if they called around and tried to move Will Levis, it didn't work, and then you're asked, there's no GM in the league who say, yeah, we tried to trade his ass, but it just didn't work out, man. Hopefully, I don't know what'll happen. Like we can't even get a seventh back for this guy. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody's going to say, oh, no, we didn't do it. I mean, look, again, this is what PK just blows this off, but it's like, this is such a, I guess it's good for us. We have more topics, but it's just,
I'd rather have less topics. Get rid of it.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It really is. And I'm not blaming Levis at all. That's just the situation. I promise you, he does not want to be here anymore. He wants to be anywhere. Well, I don't know about anywhere. There are probably 20 teams he would name right now that he wishes he was on instead of this one.
I would agree. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Terron Davenport will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on all things Titans. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN's Terron Davenport talking Titans now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week here on Robby and Rexrode. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and check in with our friend Terron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD. TD, good morning, man. How are you?
Hey, good morning. What's going on?
All right, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, TD, I heard Tyler Lockett speak yesterday for 15 minutes, however long he was up there. I thought it was awesome. Like, I walked away from that conversation, and I thought, okay, the Titans have one of those guys in the room that you just feel great about as a veteran leader. And we've talked about the production, 49 catches, 600 yards last year. Obviously, he's 32 years old now, so he's not the same guy he was in 2019. But what do you make of that signing, your impressions of him yesterday, and what he could mean to that room?
Yeah, I think he's going to mean a lot to the room. I've always liked Tyler Lockett. I mean, I remember back, his senior year at Kansas State, and even watched him at the Senior Bowl. He's definitely a player who plays bigger than his size, but obviously at 32, it's not the same. But I think just having a veteran like that, a guy that, the thing that's so underrated to me about the signing is the ability to get on the same page as the receiver and the QB scramble drill. You go back and you watch how he and Russell Wilson, they used to get down when things went off schedule, and it resulted in really big plays. So that's a big one. And then just having that reliable veteran guy that you could count on. It's, in essence, a safety blanket, and that's going to help the young quarterback in Cam Ward.
Oh, I guess Lockett goes around yesterday and shakes everyone's hand. In the time he shook everybody's hand yesterday, he could have been on his phone studying film, or he could have been, in front of a jugs machine. I mean, are we sure that he's serious about this? And in all seriousness, TD, did Jared bust out his Chig travel take for you, or does he just save that crap for us?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about any Jigga Conquo travel tape, but I do know.
Oh, it's a huge problem, buddy. It's a huge problem.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That he traveled?
Oh yeah. How did so Jared he obviously edits himself for the TD Power Hour. And I need him to
He's scared
bring out these. Yeah. I mean, I need to bring out these sweet takes so that you can dunk on him. I'm sick of him trying them out for us. But yes, apparently. Chig, all the travel, if a player does something interesting in the offseason that's worth talking about, that means they're not serious about their job.
That's a little ridiculous. I do know, and Chig said it when he was up there, and if you follow him on Instagram or the different things these kids they post on, I mean, you would know that it was a group. So it was him, DMR, a couple of the other tight ends. They traveled together, and guess what they did when they were traveling? They worked out together. Just because you're not working out here in Nashville doesn't mean you're not working out. I thought it was admirable that, even though he was in Japan or the other Caribbean places that he was in, they made sure that they got workouts in. That's fine. I don't see what the difference is here.
So, TD,
there's no difference. Yeah.
Taking Cam Ward out of the equation here, what was your favorite pick that the Titans made in the draft?
That's a good question. I guess I would say Kevin Winston Jr. I think he's going to be a player. And, I said it yesterday. I didn't realize who he was initially. You know what I mean? But then, when they showed the highlights, I'm like, oh, 21 Penn State. I remember this dude, right? And so he's someone I like to pick. I think he's eventually going to, be an outstanding player. Would like to see him get a little more, ball production. But when it comes to going downhill and making things happen, man, he does that. So I would probably say that. Honestly, though, overall wasn't super crazy about the draft. We'll see, but I mean the Cam Ward selection obviously is the one.
What about the other sort of upside? And I think there's been a lot of kind of talk about Winston. I know what some stuff Saban said, this is without the injury, we might be talking about a first round pick. But Oladejo, how much of a learning curve are we talking about from what you've seen of him? And like, what's a realistic hope? He obviously has to play because of the edge group. I mean, he's thrown into a situation where, like, I feel like he's going to have to get significant snaps. But what's a realistic expectation for him, given that he just started playing edge?
Yeah, I think he should be a situational player off the rip, just because, and a situational pass rusher at that. That's what you want him to do. Yeah, he sets the edge well. He could drop back in coverage. All that is good, and it's a nice ability to have. But, you draft a guy in the second round, defensive end / outside linebacker, you want him to go get the quarterback. And I think the best way to allow him to do that is to have that be his focus. Of course, he's going to know his assignments and everything like that, but you want him playing in more situations where he could just attack and go after the passer. With that, you want to try to do some things to help him, add to his pass rush arsenal. And the only thing you want him thinking about, when he's on the field is, okay, how am I going to get to the quarterback? What's going to be my pass rush schedule to be able to do that? And I think that's the big thing for him. So, I mean, look, situational player, 5 to 6 sacks. I think that should be the goal with Femi Oladejo.
TD, I got to say, I was really hoping Landon Jackson was going to be the guy there, and he was not. Was really hoping.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up going a bit later. He went to Buffalo. I know he's excited to go there, and yeah, I was hoping that he would be the guy. Great story, you know what I mean. He's a leader too, so I thought he fit, the different things that they wanted, but in the end, it didn't happen.
So TD, as I'm looking at this, I look at kind of the way that their offense is on paper heading right now, and we were talking about this earlier. They spent significant draft capital and now significant money on the offensive line, bringing in Dan Moore and Kevin Zeitler. And we heard Brian Callahan talking about that yesterday and how he feels like they've gotten better on paper, but we'll see. But, obviously everybody's going to pay attention to Cam Ward this year and the progress that he makes, but how important is it for the future of this coaching staff that the offensive line hits this year?
Yeah, it has to hit. I mean, I think that's kind of the key to Cam Ward's success also. And then also, in addition to that, I mean, look, if the offensive line doesn't get better than it was last year, the playbook remains restricted. There weren't too many play calls that they could do when they had 3rd and 15 or even 2nd and 10 and those types of things. You can't really truly get into the drop back passing games. You don't have the protection to do so. So you want to make sure that you're in good shape there. And then even running the football, like the offensive line is critical, man. Like that's what makes it all happen.
Back to the tight end situation, TD. Like, is Gunnar Helm good enough to be tight end 1 before this year is out? Is that asking too much? I mean, what do you think his upside is as a player?
I wouldn't put it past him, but I think what you got to remember in this offense is the tight end. It's designed for the tight end to get 50 to 60 catches, 600 to 800 yards, and I mean, Chig has fallen right in that neighborhood. So I'm not sure how much more that they'll get out of it. I think when you look at Gunnar Helm and just how reliable he is and how well he works the middle of the field, the seam route, you want to make sure that you get him in there and use a lot of 12 personnel.
All right, TD, last thing for you here. Have you seen the Jags GM, James Gladstone, and his comments on Travis Hunter? And where does this combo of Liam Cohen and the Duval and James Gladstone overall rank in terms of goofiness in the history of the National Football League, the 1-2 combo?
Yeah, it's probably the weirdest combo that I tell you. But hey, I respect what he said. You know what I mean? I really do respect what he said about how they want to revolutionize the way they do things around there. And he said, Travis Hunter is a way to do that, by having a guy that's able to do something that no one has ever done before. So we'll see what happens. I'll be frank, I don't really care for Travis Hunter, but, I wish him the best. I can't wait to see these Titans receivers go against them, and I want to see what happens. But I respect the fact that he's just like, man, we're going to change things.
Absolutely. Well, TD, great stuff as always, man. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. You guys take it easy.
Terron Davenport, our guest, joins us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. We'll take your reaction to what TD had to say, more of your Titans questions to get to on our text line. We've got weekend winners coming up at 8:30, all that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Join Big Joe and 102.5 The Game from 10 a.m. to noon at Coleman Tractor of Nashville tomorrow for Kubota Orange Days. There will be exclusive deals on compact tractors, zero turns, and more with special financing available. Sale runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with demos, deals, giveaways, and lunch coming up from 11 to 1. That's the Coleman Tractor of Nashville, located at 7221 Whites Creek Pike in Jolton tomorrow. And Big Joe will be out there from 10 a.m. to noon, so make sure you're there for that. Joe, some quick news to pass along on the NHL front. The Rangers have officially hired Mike Sullivan to be their next head coach. So I'm not sure that it really matters anymore from the Predators, because it certainly looks like they are keeping Andrew Brunette at this point. And again, we'll hear from Barry Trotz coming up on Monday afternoon. But Mike Sullivan officially hired by the New York Rangers. No surprise there.
Nope, no surprise. And Tocchet will be interesting. A lot of openings, but it looks like, although Alex Doherty keeping an open mind, looks like the Preds are not going to be getting into all that stuff. So
it certainly appears that way, but we'll see on Monday what Barry Trotz has to say. And the NHL draft lottery coming up on Monday as well. So we'll have a lot to say on that front on Monday's show. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Ed in New Jersey to the program. Ed, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, fellas. Joe, I just want to throw my 2 cents into this. So I just don't understand what's wrong with Ward having competition. Removing Levis from the equation, like you said, you wouldn't have these issues. What's wrong with creating the issue? I mean, to me, removing Levis is like an overprotective parent who shields their kids from everything, and then they're not ready to leave the nest and they're not ready for the real world. I mean, to me, if Levis has a great offseason, shows market improvement, that's a good thing. I mean, let the kid have some competition. I think we should be more worried if he can't beat out Levis.
So if Levis is better than him in camp, are you going to start Will Levis for the season?
I mean, if he starts game 1, game 2, game 3, and you're saying, okay, then he starts to struggle, or
what if he doesn't? What if you start Will Levis and he continues to play well? You moving on from Cam Ward after this year?
No, but
what's the point? You drafted him number 1 overall to be the starting quarterback, right?
Yeah, but what's the service you're doing to Ward by giving him a fast lane and not creating any competition for him? I mean,
yeah, I hear you. Like philosophically speaking, I hear you, but I just think this particular situation, it's again, I don't think it's realistic. I don't think there's any way that they're actually going to let Levis win the competition. I really don't. So to me, it's just a distraction. And I mean, yeah, if someone's pushing him as opposed to like Brandon Allen's clearly QB2 and he's just here to support him, I understand that. But also, like, to me, it's not like I would hope that Cam Ward wouldn't need the incentive of competing. I would hope he would need the incentive of, this is the hardest job in sports. This is the most coveted job in sports. We're throwing everything at you, and it's about you learning defenses, this offense, the playbook, your players. Why? I don't see why, like, having Levis over here is like that's going to provide like an incentive boost. It shouldn't be needed. He should have enough in front of him to try to live up to being the number 1 overall pick. And I think everyone should be there to support him. I understand, like, well, why is competition bad? But I do think quarterback, in a lot of ways, is just different from all the other positions.
There you go. Thank you for calling. Does anybody?
I get what he's saying.
I get what he's saying, but then again, like, okay, so let's say it's a competition. What if Will Levis wins? Does anybody want that? Like, are you actually going to start Will Levis if he's better than Cam Ward?
I contend, and they can say whatever they want, there's no way he will win. That's the thing.
I know.
Right?
So it's not a real competition. Right. So, like, it all sounds great in theory, but it's not a real competition. Like, there's no way it would be. So, I mean, unless you're just willing to say, well, I know we just spent a number 1 pick on this guy, but, Will Levis was better in camp. So we're just going to go with Will Levis until the wheels fall off, and we'll see. Maybe the wheels fall off week 4, maybe it's week 12, whenever it is. But whenever that time comes, we'll go with Cam Ward. Like, I don't think that's a smart way to handle this. Like, did Caleb Williams have competition for his job when he was the number 1 overall pick? Trevor Lawrence? Joe Burrow? I mean, no.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. I mean, no. Like, these guys, you take them that high in the draft for a reason. I don't think you need competition coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and this is not, and if you did, like if you had like Tyrod Taylor, okay, so someone who's like a fringe starter, who is a veteran, who once the transition is inevitably made, that person who's been a pro and been in this league forever is just going to go right, put on the hat of, okay, now I'm supporting the young guy, right? Like, I know I'm a placeholder. I'm supporting the young guy. Like, Levis is trying to carve his way in this league, and he just had a terrible second season. And it's just, he doesn't fit the profile of the veteran that you would want competing, air quotes, or, basically like, okay, the rookie's not ready. Let's do the placeholder thing. Jacoby Brissett last year in New England, right? Let's do the placeholder thing until the rookie's ready. They don't have that. I mean, I guess Brandon Allen could be that in theory, but I don't think they have that. And again, I think that's probably their mistake in terms of what they did in getting a veteran quarterback. Levis certainly is. It's just, he needs to be somewhere else, in my opinion.
Well, again, the fact that we keep bringing this up, I think, is exactly the point, right? Like, it's, we continue to talk about this, whereas I'm of the mind, Cam Ward needs to get every possible rep that he can.
Right.
Every single one of them. And I'm not saying you give Brandon Allen like nothing, and he just Brandon, keep your arm loose. We'll see you in the regular season. When you're going against the second team, and you can throw seven passes per practice. I'm not saying that, but like Cam Ward needs to get the starting reps from now until his first snap in the regular season, and to get as much as possible with this offense and with this receiving group.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this text. So Kevin says, the point is winning teams create competition. Caller's right. Best teams don't just throw guys to the curb. It's Levis does well. He's only increasing his value. What happened with Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees, who said it's a crime to have two good quarterbacks? Let me stop you right there, Kevin. Drew Brees was an excellent starting quarterback for the Chargers. Then they brought in Rivers. They had two excellent players, okay? That is not this. Then Kevin continues, we don't want Levis to be better, but if he is, why is that a bad thing? You're essentially saying last year we had no quarterbacks. We now have two good quarterbacks. That's somehow a bad thing. Y'all are thinking backwards about how to win. Okay. Hey, again, I'm glad that we have a smorgasbord of opinions on this, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, again, good teams create competition. Like, I must have missed it. Was Joe Burrow, did he have competition for his job when he came in as the number 1 overall pick with the Bengals? Did Caleb Williams have competition for his job last year when he came in as the number 1 overall pick for the Bears? I don't think so.
When you take someone at pick 1, round 1, and then they unretire a number, give them number 1.
He's your starter.
Like, you're everything is about that person being great. Splitting reps with Will Levis does not. You can say it's competition. It's not a real one anyway. He's going to win the job anyway. So give him the reps.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're trying to manufacture a competition here that everybody, from the head coach to the general manager to the players in the locker room to us sitting here bloviating on the radio, knows isn't real. We know that Cam Ward is going to start. So I don't understand. Like, if you want competition for the sake of saying you had a competition, fine, I guess. But what purpose does that serve?
I have no ideas. Kevin just called me a dummy and said Brees wasn't his first. Brees wasn't good as first. So you're comparing Brees in his early years of the Chargers with Will Levis. Please go back and help yourself and stop texting at me.
615-737-1025, our phone number.
I like the word dummy.
615
dummy. I'm going to call you a dumb.
1025. Drew Brees did throw a lot of interceptions his first part of his career. I don't know if he ever took one and catapulted it over the back of his head, though. Be interested to see.
Not that I recall.
Got that shoulder figured out. Didn't end up in Miami. That's a tough one for Nick Saban. We'll have weekend winners coming up next. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. Weekend winners here on Robby and Rexrode. Took the week off last week in the aftermath of the NFL draft. A lot of draft stuff to get to last week. So back at it this week. A standings update in the competition. Last time out, which was 2 weeks ago, I went 4-2 with my lock. Rexrode 2-4 with his lock. Ian Safar jumping in the competition and dominating 5-1 with his lock in his first week of weekend winners. So Ian just coming in and making an immediate impact, which brings the overall standings. Joe Rexrode in first place, 29-25, 7-2 on his locks, 36 points. I'm 28-26, 6-3 on my locks, 34 points. Ian Safar / Nick Keiser, 4-5 on their locks, 29-25 overall, 33 points. So everybody within 3 points of each other with Ian's monster week from a couple of weeks ago. With that in mind, Joe, we begin this week with the Jets and the Blues coming up in Game 6. Winnipeg with a win will advance to the second round. Straight up winner, Blues at home in this one. Joe Rexrode, who we got?
I don't know why, but I'm just thinking the Blues are just going to continue to be a thorn and continue to be a problem in their own building for the Jets. Give me the Blues.
I'm also going St. Louis. I think St. Louis wins at home to force a Game 7 back in Winnipeg, which I believe would be Sunday night at that point. But I'll take the Blues at home to take this one the distance. Ian Safar, Jets and Blues coming up in Game 6.
I guess I have to take Winnipeg.
Going with Winnipeg.
Yep.
In that one. So the Jets to close things out. The Rockets and the Warriors coming up in Game 6 in the NBA. Golden State, a 5.5-point favorite in this one. I will go with the Rockets plus the 5.5. I think Golden State wins. I think it's going to be a thriller. I will take the Rockets plus the 5.5 in this matchup. Ian Safar, who we got?
I will also take Houston plus 5.5. Would not be surprised to see Golden State win by a bucket, but I will take the points.
Going with the Rockets plus the points at 5.5. Joe Rexrode, do I even need to ask?
No, you do, because I'm taking the Rockets too. This is if the Warriors destroy my summer and lose tonight, I at least can have the solace of having picked the Rockets. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Rockets' youth and athleticism is starting to wear on the Warriors. They're doing an incredible job on Curry. I'm very nervous.
You know, if they lose tonight, there's still another game, right? Like they can rebound.
They're screwed.
Will Draymond kick someone again?
I don't know.
He fell. Come on. He never does anything on purpose.
He falls a lot.
By the way, real quick, I can't wait till next segment because Stilly is trying to tell me that Levis and Breeze are the same guy. So his takes are amazing. But anyway, keep going.
Going back to a huge one in the NHL on Saturday. Game 7 between the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. It's been an awesome series. Frankly, I knew it would be. I don't like that it's in the first round, but it is what it is. Game 7, straight up winner. Ian Safar, who we got?
This one's a little bit tough. I've kind of going back and forth over this one. I think I'm going to go with the Avs, though.
Going with the Avalanche on the road to get it done in Game 7. Joe Rexrode, who we got? Game 7, Stars, Avs.
I'm going to stick with it. Stick with the Stars. Fascinating Game 7. I mean, this is a great series, but I'm going to stick with the Stars.
I will go with the Avs. They were my pre-playoffs pick to win the Stanley Cup. So I kind of have to go with them at this point, but it's going to be a great game. Again, I hate that this is a first-round series because it probably should be like a Western Conference final, even though Pete DeBoer, Dallas coach, last night did say, no one gave us a chance to win this series, to which Jared Bednar said, weren't they like third overall in the league? Didn't they finish third overall in the league? Interesting comments last night. We moved to the individual portion of the program. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
So another Game 7, Clippers, Nuggets in Denver. Nuggets minus 1.5. Oh, man. I got to go with them at home. I got to go with them I think it'll be a great game, but I think they'll win, by 5 to 7 points. Give me the Nuggets.
Going with the Nuggets. Ian Safar, your first individual selection.
We'll go chronological order here. I will go Nashville SC.
Oh,
I'm sticking up with Keiser here. I'm going to take them to get the dub at Atlanta on Saturday afternoon.
Going with Nashville SC to get the W.
And make that my lock.
Locking down on Nashville SC to get the win at Atlanta. Give me the Padres -1.5 against the Pirates. I'm making a killing going against the Pirates right now. Give me the Padres -1.5 against the Pirates. Big baseball guy here. Ian Safari, your second individual selection.
I also chronologically Saturday evening, I also have Denver -1.5 to win against the Clips.
Going Denver -1.5 to win against the Clips. Give me the Clippers plus the 1.5 against Denver. I'll go head to head against both of you guys. Give me the Clippers to get it done in Game 7 there. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection.
Okay, we're going to Game 1. Pacers Cavs. Pacers insane comeback to eliminate Milwaukee, and then Tyrese Halliburton's dad acted like a child. And good for Tyrese, by the way, for calling out his dad for how he acted with Giannis there. But Cavs at home -7.5. Look, I think the Cavs are I think right now they're the best team in the league. And I think they're going to blow out the Pacers in this series, maybe sweep, maybe 5 at the most. I think they're going to blow them out in Game 1. Give me the Cavs -7.5.
Going with Cleveland -7.5 against the Pacers. Joe, your final individual selection.
Well, I'm taking a page out of your book. I don't even know who it is. I don't care. But this might be my pick every week. Whoever's playing the White Sox tonight, lock.
You don't know who it is?
Oh, I don't care. The White Sox are going to lose. Lock. I think that might be my weekly lock. And I'm going to just absolutely kill.
They're playing the Astros.
Love them. I love that they suck this bad. And year after year, I hope Ryan's listening. Ryan in Chicago, you listening? God, your White Sox suck. It's so beautiful.
With the you're going Astros -1.5 lock against the Chicago White Sox. Give me the San Francisco Giants -1.5 against the Colorado Rockies. Again, big baseball guy. I think the Rockies are 5-26 or whatever.
I think they've won 5 games. I saw. Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
They beat the Braves the other day, though.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. Tough loss for Atlanta. Give me the Giants -1.5 locking down against the Rockies. Ian Safar, your final individual selection.
Okay, I'm going Oppo on this basketball game that Joe did. Sunday, Game 1. I'm going to take the 7.5, the Pacers.
Going Pacers.
You know, there might be a little bit of the fallout from the Halliburton thing. Maybe there's some drama. Maybe, Cleveland did crush the first series, no problem.
Ugh.
So maybe I'm overlooking this a little bit. But, I'll go Pacers 7.5.
I like it. Pacers plus the 7.5 against Cleveland to begin the series. I mean, look, Cleveland did win their last game by 50-something points against my beloved Miami Heat. So maybe they're sleepwalking a little bit heading into this series. Joe, what do we think?
I mean, maybe. I'm following. I'm following along as a possibility.
I'm very excited for Stars and Avs. Game 7 coming. Game 7, I contend. Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs is my favorite thing in all of sports.
Too bad we were robbed of one last night.
I agree.
Ottawa. Almost had it. Could have forced the Game 7. Toronto with a late one there.
Can you imagine the absolute panic from Leafs fans if Ottawa had won that game last night?
I mean, yeah, no one would be able to go to the bathroom for 2 days. My champion moves on, though. They had a little bit of a challenge. I think that's good for them, and now they move on.
And now they get to take on the Florida Panthers, which I'm sure will go well for Toronto.
I think they're gonna beat them, man.
Oh, and Joe, just to give you a heads up on since you've got old Stilly muted here, he's going at you on your Drew Brees take here. Just a heads up.
Well, that's great.
We'll get into that.
He sent me the stats of Levis and Brees, and he's trying to tell me that basically Drew Brees back then was Will Levis now. Brilliant, Jared. Keep tweeting, please.
We'll get into that. Going next, more thoughts on the Titans quarterback situation to get into as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Tune in to Totally Hits 93.3 tomorrow night as the Nashville Cats take on the Corpus Christi Tritons. What a name that is. Pregame starts at 6:30, kickoff at 7 o'clock, with coverage also available on the Totally Hits 93.3 app and at TotallyHitsNashville.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. As Ian pointed out, Stillman has taken umbrage with Jared Stillman, or with Joe Rexrode's Drew Brees take, and has gone the comparison of Drew Brees and Will Levis through, I guess, their first year as a starter or first 12 games. And I will say, Drew Brees threw a lot of interceptions, Joe.
He did.
First 2 years as a starter, 16 picks and 15 picks.
Yep. Yeah, this is true. So, first of all, I want to apologize to Kevin for calling him a dum-dum. He called me a dummy first.
He did.
But I shouldn't have called him a dum-dum. And I do think that excellent is overstated. Now, his first year as a starter, for people who don't remember, he was top of the second round. He's a great player at Purdue. Covered him in college. 3,200 yards, 17 TDs, 16 picks. Is that excellent? Did I overstate excellent? I probably did. The next year, he was hurt a lot. Flutie came in. He went back in, all this stuff. And they drafted Rivers. Doug Flutie.
My guy.
Yeah. So, again, did I overstate with excellent? Yes. Also, I love it. Jared, stats matter to Jared until they don't. Now, Jared is actually trying to use these stats and compare what anyone who watched football thought of Brees then and compare it to Levis now. I mean, that's absurd. So you can throw whatever numbers you want. Will Levis right now is, we'll see if he gets another chance to start in this league. Could I see him at some point having a renaissance? Oh, sure, it's possible.
I feel like you're walking it back a little bit. You're walking it back your take.
I just said that excellent was overstating it, but his first year was very promising as a starter. 0-2. The next year, the injuries were a huge part of the whole thing with Rivers, and injuries were a big concern with Drew Brees early in his career. So that's where we're kind of missing that. But comparing him to Levis is the thing is excellent was overstating it, but now Jared has thankfully decided to compare him to Levis. So thank you, Jared, for taking this take to new boundaries. You're like Travis Hunter, taking football and the human race to new boundaries. It's amazing. So bless both of you.
Brandes on the text line says, is there something wrong with saying there's a competition and expecting the best player to win, referring to Ward and Levis? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think we all know it's not true. Like, we all know that Cam Ward is not in a real competition with Will Levis. And everything about what's happened this offseason tells us that. They drafted him number 1 overall. Will Levis was the franchise guy. And again, I still don't know if Will Levis is going to be here by the time training camp rolls around. Everything they've done, unretiring Warren Moon's number, drafting him number 1 overall, talking about him being their franchise guy moving forward. There is not a true competition between Cam Ward and Will Levis heading into camp here. So is there anything wrong with saying that it's a competition and the reps are going to be, it's based on performance? I don't guess there's anything wrong with saying that. I just think we all know it's a total crock. Everybody knows that.
Right. And again, and this is why it's not real. It's not going to happen. And I'm actually anxious to hear Kaharski, next week on if he thinks there's actually any chance of a competition. Imagine that it is real. They split reps, which again limits Cam Ward's preparation going into his career, because it is very different than Kansas City with a good player at starting quarterback and a playoff team.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. So imagine that, and then Levis wins a job. So these guys just turn down 2 firsts and 2 seconds for a dude who can't beat out Will Levis. This is why you move him.
This is why you move him, and this is why it's not a real competition. And that's why, when I hear Brian Callahan hop up on the stage yesterday and start talking about, we've got a plan for the quarterbacks and their reps, and it's going to be largely up to them. It's based on how they perform.
He's talking how most teams carry 3, some even carry 4 quarterbacks on the roster. What's a realistic amount for them to carry this year with Ward and Boyle? I don't know. Will they carry 3?
Yeah, look, if Levis is here, I'm with PK in terms I've seen Tim Boyle. I've watched Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle's very bad. He's not a good quarterback. Now, he's apparently an unbelievable teammate because everywhere he goes, people just rave about how much they love Tim Boyle. So that's good. Nice to have that in your room. But you already have like a veteran backup quarterback in Brandon Allen. So, like, I guess if it came down to it and Levis was still on the roster by the time training camp happens and you can't trade him or you're not moving him for whatever reason, then I guess it would be those three. But still, like, I look at this and I say, all right, Brian Callahan's telling me it's based on performance, and that's how they're going to split up the reps. That didn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know why we're putting this dog and pony show together, acting like this is a true competition when we all know that it's not.
Right. Like Matthew Nash says, I think y'all are reading too much in the comment. I'm fairly confident they're just blowing smoke to inflate his trade value. I mean, like, it's not going to inflate his trade value because he has no trade value right now. Ward is QB1. I understand, Matthew. Like, I generally agree with you, but again, like, not everybody does. And some people are advocating today, like, what about real competition? It's not. I don't think it's reality.
Well, again, like, I don't think anything at this point that Brian Callahan or Mike Borgonzi say at the podium is going to influence Will Levis's trade value one way or the other. Like, his trade value is not high, and it's not getting any higher between now and the time training camp rolls around. I mean, I guess unless there's just like some rash of injuries in the offseason.
So Dennis says a competition isn't exclusively a benefit for the starter. It pushes the backups too. Don't you want your roster as strong as possible? Competition is good even if the competition is real. I think that's fair in every part of this roster except at quarterback. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, you have started the Cam Ward era, and I just don't think that some competition, air quotes, is gonna benefit him when it's going to take reps away from him. He needs everything thrown into making him great. And I understand some people say, well, why a competition doesn't make you great? The incentive, the effort, the hunger, all that stuff should be beyond what any competition could do for you. And if it's not, you got a real problem.
Well, you know, Robert says it should be based on performance. The locker room says so. I think a lot of times that is the case. I don't think that's always the case at quarterback. Like, I just don't. I don't think, you know, when you draft rookie quarterbacks coming in, do we think it's always universally been the case that the rookie coming in as a high pick is from the jump better and more ready to go than the veteran is that's behind him? No, that's not always been the case.
No.
More times than not, the rookie still starts because of where you were drafted.
Right. And again, you can find examples of, well, maybe he should have, you know, Bryce Young, maybe they shouldn't have tried to throw him out there. I get it. You know, sometimes it's bad. He was quarterbacking a terrible team, and he was bad, and it was all bad. And luckily, it looks like he's on the way back. But this is the problem also with when you draft number one, you draft quarterback, and you don't have the right support around him. We're going to find out about the Titans. I definitely fear for Cam Ward that when he starts, which is 100% happening in week one, that he's not going to be supported as much as he needs to be. That's part of the problem of this pick.
All right, let's throw it out there right now as we have the last minute of the show here. Is Will Levis on the roster when training camp opens?
I'll say yes, but not when it ends.
I'll probably lean that way too, just because you got through the draft. And how many times are we going to see a trade happen in like July? I don't think we see that very often in the NFL. I'll say yes, but I think it could be very similar to the Malik Willis situation from a year ago. I think it could play out very similarly.
Yeah, I do too. I think that. I think it's this conversation we had today, which dominated the show. There's going to be a lot more of that in months to come, which I think should have been should be avoided. But here we are.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Got you covered all day long here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Jason Big Joe is up next. We'll see you on Monday.